conflict in Mindanao is multifaceted, involving numerous armed groups as well as clans, criminal gangs, and political elites. Main actors to this decades-old conflict are the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, the Moro National Liberation Front, the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters, Abu Sayyaf, and other armed non-state groups who are consistently in conflict with the central government due to its heinous kidnappings and bombings. A huge number of the victims of the conflict in Mindanao have been ordinary civilians, women and men, old people and children who were either displaced from their communities or killed in the crossfire by bullets and bombs that recognize no gender, no religion, no creed, no stature. The impact and social cost of the decades-old war to the people in the entire nation had been vicious and costly. The cost of war in Mindanao explains previous Philippine government's huge spending on wars in Mindanao, which clearly talks about lives lost rather than lives improved. Finding peaceful solutions to the causes of the armed conflict in Mindanao is never easy, as the toll has affected not just Mindanao but the entire country. This has discouraged foreign and local investments and ultimately bleeding the nation's coffers, with the previous governments spending more on war than on basic social services. There are two opposing views when it comes to the armed struggle in the Bangsamoro region. While the central government had earlier viewed the armed struggle as an act of rebellion against the state, the other party has always claimed as a legitimate exercise of the right to self-determination. Over the years, the state has come to recognize the Bangsamoro and indigenous people's struggle for just and lasting peace in Mindanao, albeit always within the framework of the country's constitution. While previous governments tried to resolve these conflicts, the root cause is the failure to address the Mindanao people's legitimate struggle for their right to self-determination, dignity, and governance, and is a major challenge to achieving sustainable peace in the region. With the clamor to correct these historical injustices and to recognize their inherent right to chart their own political and cultural path, the Bangsamoro people, together with their non-Moro allies, have struggled to get their calls heard and acted upon by the central government. From the efforts and passion of the peace advocates, their use of platforms and communication in promoting peace through the years had been put into question. Checking and knowing their communicative practices is essential to determine the strengths and challenges of their peace efforts. Since several studies on peace are done through quantifying the impact, this ethnomethodological study on the communicative practices of the peace advocates in Mindanao attempts to determine the practices and platforms used by the advocates, as well as highlighting the accomplishments of using those practices and platforms. It resonates to understand how the sense of peace building is reflected on their pursuits despite of the socio-political limitations and challenges. Thus, the general objective is to determine and explain the use of communication in promoting peace and what is its influence in the peace process. We deepen our understanding as to what are the communication practices that the peace advocates in Mindanao use in order for them to promote peace in their target audience. What do the communicative practices of peace advocates accomplish in the peace process in Mindanao? After long years of war, what we achieve, what we get, why don't we check? Mindanao, communication, peace.